What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Base Damage. Hope you're all doing great. And we have a Chainsaw Man deck today. I have to double check how much the budget for this is going to be, but it is very, very cheap. Let me put it that way. So I saw one particular Climax combo off of this this 8 standby, and I saw the combo, and I'm like, I have to make a deck based off of this. I fucking have to. It's just so fun. It's so hilarious. I'm gonna go ahead and say trigger warning for anybody watching this, especially to the guys. Just before we continue, there is talk about something you might not like to hear. I'm just gonna leave it at that. But this is gonna be 8 standby. This is gonna be budget 8 standby. There's several like rares that are in here, but everything else in here is like common, uncommon, trial deck stuff. It's so cheap. A lot of the double rares were also kind of cheap, but there was some expensive ones we did not include, obviously. So this is extremely budget, and it's going to be focused around this particular level 3 Dingy comboing with the 8 the standby right here. So let's start at the beginning and work our way down. From the trial deck, we have Mysterious Smell Makima is a Climax swapper, so pay 1, pitch a Climax to salvage back 1. Sometimes it might come up if you have one combo over the other that you want, and it's just nice to have. And like I said, from the trial deck, very easy to get. Then we have the first Climax combo is Sudden Confession Makima. It specifically combos with this Dingy for the Climax combo itself, but let's get into it. So when Special Request is played, this particular one, I got a loop right there. When it's placed, you get to, and you have 2 or more other devil characters, you declare either deck or waiting room, and then you get to add a copy of that particular level 0 Dingy from either deck or waiting room, whichever you declared. Add 1 to hand and then shuffle your deck if it was the deck. And she also has a Brainstorm, so it's very interesting for the recursion for this, because typically people would be like, oh, this Brainstorm I don't want to fuck with, but I think it's perfectly fine, and it kind of helps, if that makes any sense, with the standby aspect of the deck. So it's a rest this card and sack another character. Mill 4, for each Climax revealed, look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, choose 1 card amongst them, add it to your hand. So you get a little bit extra mill, a little bit extra digging, so that your standby targets could easily be in the waiting room. Now, the thing with this is, because of the Climax combo itself grabs you this particular Dingy, which is the next one we're going to talk about, is all about filtering. It's all about hand filtering and getting your targets into the waiting room to do what you want to do. And by doing so, you could basically just play him, use the effects and everything, sack him specifically for the Makima. Then you have an open slot in the back row for standbys to be able to be played. Play her standby combo, and then just grab him back and repeat again the next turn. So it's a loop between these two. So that's kind of the neat thing about it. Continuing on, we have 4 copies of this particular Aki, A Moment at the Hotel. If it's in the middle position of your center stage, it gets 2k. But that's whatever. The main reason you run this is the second effect. When this card attacks during the attack, perform trigger check twice during the trigger step. It's mandatory. But then afterwards, you put the top card of your stock into the waiting room. So you end up only generating 1 stock, but you are required to trigger twice. This does let you potentially trigger standby and everything to be able to get the ball rolling, you know. But like I said, you do lose a stock afterwards. So hypothetically here, like let's say you trigger, it's not a standby. The second trigger happens, it is a standby. You get to do your summon and everything, and then the effect makes it so you send that last trigger to the waiting room. So then that Climax is no longer in your stock, so it's clean. So hopefully there's not 4 more stuck in there, but you know that's how Weiss goes. And lastly, this particular Aki is a promo. I will go ahead and say that when I picked these up, they were very cheap, but because of promo status, price could fluctuate in the future, just stating. But this is a very interesting card because it's very reminiscent of a Mio from Hololive that people run just a lot of in general, but especially in their 8 standby decks as well. It says, when this card is placed on stage from your hand, or placed from stage to waiting room, on play or on death, pay 1, pitch a Devil Hunter or Devil character. And if you do, look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck. Choose up to 1 card, add it to your hand, put the rest into your waiting room. So a lot of what people would do with the Mio is they would just play 1 back row. And if they triggered a standby, they would just summon over top of the Mio, because it had an on-play effect for searching the deck, and you could also activate that effect on death as well. So it's the same concept as I said with this other Aki of being able to pay out the standby. You would summon over top of this, whatever your standby target is, then immediately activate this Aki effect. Paying the 1 stock, getting that climax out of your stock. So, and then obviously try to mill a little bit more. Try to get other try to get other cards in there. It also says choose up to 1 card. So you don't actually have to show what your opponent what you grab. You could also just grab extra standbys off of this effect from on play, just stating. And that's gonna be it for the zeros. We got 2. Basically, it's a free 2K backup Makima. Just kind of put it in here because we do have some big characters in here. You want to try to keep them alive. But we do have other backups as well. Otherwise, I'll probably run more copies of this. 4 copies of Buddy's Abnormality Dingy. If the number of other Devil Hunter Devil characters you have is 2 or more, this gains 2K power, and it has character encore. It's your typical level 1 standby target, but we run 4 of them for good reason. 1 copy of this particular power is very nice. It has a very interesting just removal kit in general. First off, it is a anti-change reverser. So very good to have that in here. We do have an anti-change backup, but we'll get to that in a second, but good to have more. But it also has a very interesting first effect. When this is placed on stage from your hand, put the top 4 cards of your deck into the waiting room. If there's a climax amongst those, you may choose one of your opponent's level 3 or lower characters, return it to your opponent's hand. If you really need to get something off the field, that's nice. If nothing else, you still mill 4 to potentially put standby targets into the waiting room. So that's just a good card in general. Now, once again, because you bounce it back to your opponent's hand, be mindful what you bounce. Like, make certain that you need to. Now, obviously, because it doesn't say center stage, you could bounce back one of their back rows. That's like an assist or something that's like being a pain. So you could get rid of a very problematic card with this. But to be fair, it's also the mill is forced, but if you do proc a climax off of the mill, it says you may choose one. So that's completely optional. It's just a very nice little bit of extra removal to have. And like I said, reverser. Speaking of anti-change stuff, 1K backup Himeno. When you use this card's backup, you can discard any 2 cards. If you do, choose an opponent's character whose level is higher than their level and put it on the bottom of their deck, so a bottom anti-change backup. And then lastly, for the backups in general, we have a 3K memory kick, so very nice to have. It's a Fighting a Demon Chainsaw Man. So then 4 copies of Immortal Demon Chainsaw Man. This is your typical like level 2 target. It's all good. It gets 1,000 power for each of your other Devil Hunter Devil characters, and it has a character encore specifically for Devil Hunter Devil. So. But it can become a 10-5, and it has 2 soul. Can't neglect that. That is going to be it for the 2s. Getting into the level 3s, which we have a big number of for like a good reason. You want to be able to pull off the stuff, obviously. But so this particular Makima, your characters in front of this get 2K power. This is a boss request Makima. I don't think it's the English translation of the name, but just stating. When this card is placed on stage from hand, you can discard a card to put the top card of your clock into your stock, so can potentially heal off of it, but you're probably not going to be playing it from hand because you only have like 4 yellow cards in here. You're basically just trying to summon this off of the standby. You could even drop this down to 1 if you wanted to. That's just me stating. And then we're going to put 2 copies of this particular Chainsaw Man from the trial deck. This particular level 3 does have a fusion combo, quote unquote. Initially, I wanted this entire deck to include the whole fusion combo package, but as I was test playing it, it felt like it just had no guidance. Something about it just didn't feel right. So I wanted to really make that work. And I'm certain maybe there's someone who can make it work, maybe fewer copies, but I ended up dropping it down to like three of each piece. And even that felt like it had too much going on at one time. It felt very clunky. So, but it still has good effects, especially like the second effect. The first one being when this is placed on stage from hand or by the fusion effect, but we can't do that. Look at up to 3 cards from the top of your deck, choose 1 card, add it to your hand, put the rest in the waiting room. So you can, when you play this, grab like, you know, other level 3s, standbys, whatever the fuck you need, backups and whatnot. So, but the big thing you can stand by this in and still use is when this card's battle opponent becomes reversed. You can pay 1, pitch 1. If you do, put the bottom 4 cards of your opponent's deck into their waiting room and burn them equal to the number of climaxes put into the waiting room by this effect. So just great off finisher because our climax combo doesn't like have so much of like a finishing effect for the next one. So now I am going to skip to the power first because the last bit of the deck we're going to be talking about these 2 cards anyway, because it's they play off this. Aki is involved in the climax combo for this Denji. So the You Are So Dumb power. This is also from the trial deck, just a neat little bit extra like heal, because I did want to include some heal in the deck since you can't really hard cast the Makima. So it is on play, heal 1 in general. When this card attacks, you can pay 1 and sack another Devil Hunter Devil character. If you do, choose up to 2 cards in your opponent's waiting room, put them into their deck, shuffle their deck afterwards, and this gains an extra 1,000 power to end the turn. That's probably not going to come up but so much, but it is kind of nice just to have. And if nothing else, like I said, just easy to have for the heal. So now, the reason I wanted to make this deck entirely, Loser's Voice Denji and Requiem to the Heavens Aki, off of this particular standby. So this deck is called Stomp 'em in the Nuts. If anybody knows that Boondocks reference, you're a G. So there's a scene in the manga, and they kept in the anime, where to get this guy to like talk, they decided we need to torture him. How are we going to torture him? Denji's like, yo, I'm gonna just like, hey, you just want to repeatedly kick this dude in the balls. There's like a scene in like episode 2 or 3 where Denji's like, yeah, no, if I fight a guy, it's nuts or nothing. I'm only going to kick him in below the belt. So they reflected that in the effects of this as well. I really, really, really love this combo. It's just really funny because of the flavor. So the very first effect says all damage dealt by this card is taken from the bottom of the deck instead. And the Aki does the same. So if you hit your opponent for 2 damage, they send cards from the bottom of the deck instead of the top of the deck. It's flavor because it's representing that they're not hitting up top, they're hitting below the belt. It has to do with the nut kicking. That's what I'm saying. So when you realize that, it's like, oh, that's actually, that's flavor. That's hilarious to me. So, and then the rest of the climax combo kicks in and everything. At the start of your attack phase, you may pay the cost. If you do, if you pay 1 and sack the standby, and if you do, stand this card, and then you get to summon a copy of the level 3 Aki from your hand. It does summon from hand, and that's the one downside. I really wish it summoned from waiting room on this, but whatever. From your hand, place it on any position of the stage, and that character gains the following ability until the end of the turn. When this card's battle opponent becomes reversed, you may send that character to the bottom of your opponent's deck. So you basically give the Aki the like removal ability, and then he has some other burn as well that happens. That is all going to be happening from the bottom of the deck. Lastly, he has, when this card is frontal attacked, look at the top part of your deck, put it on top of your deck or into the waiting room. So, very nice. It's also 10-5, I guess I should, like, point out here. So, to finish this off, first off, it has all of your other, the Aki has all of your other Devil Hunter Devil characters gain 1,500 power, just a global in general, whether he's center stage or backstage, doesn't matter. But typically, you're obviously just going to be summoning him to center stage with the Denji effect. So he does have a burn effect of during your turn when the battle opponent becomes reversed, pay 1, pitch 1, burn 1. So that burn 1 is obviously going to be guaranteed if you have the removal effect from the Denji, or you get to pick the order. Because the Denji makes it so, okay, when the Aki reverses, you can send that character to the bottom of the opponent's deck. Then you can burn 1 from the bottom of the opponent's deck, essentially guaranteeing that burn. But if you're already confident the burn 1 will stick, you can do that first, and then, like, if you got another attacker or something, you could then do that. and then like you could do the burn one and then kick it to the bottom of the deck. So that's up to you. But it's just really funny, and both of these cards are uncommon. It's like a very cheap thing. It's fun. That's what this deck is just a really fun budget deck. I just think it's absolutely hilarious that an entire combo like this is based off of this scene from the anime. I just thought that was hilarious. So obviously we got 4 copies of Stomp 'em in the Nuts and 4 copies of the Makima Special Request one. This is also just very suggestive. I like this. And that is going to be it for the deck profile. I will end up making a link for this. I just wanted to show it off on the simulator more than anything. But I will make a link for this in the description for a deck log link for it, so you can go check it out that way to see the English names. It was just easier to do up here, just stating. But yeah, thank y'all very much for watching. It is greatly appreciated. There's a lot of little things you can change in here depending on your preference. And once again, it's on your preference. Whatever you want to do, have fun. Chainsaw Man's a very fun deck and very fun show in general, so there you go. We will be signing off then. Peace out for now.